thought about going back to Everquest, or perhaps you've already taken that step? But are you overwhelmed by interface options, features you don't remember being in the game in the first place? Do you say to yourself, what is this? Or how do I do this? Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, is a video for you. Hello Norrathians, I'm Telkiney the Nerd Navigator, and it's my hope that with this video, I can clear up any confusion you have when coming back to play Everquest. Over the years of expansions, they've added so many awesome features, it's understandable that one could feel overwhelmed. I'm going to go over the features added in each expansion in order. I'll also use the description box below the video for time codes for each expansion, so you can pick where you want to start from. Now, before I start going over the timeline of expansions themselves, there have been a few recent updates to the systems and some features that weren't included in specific content launches, but just general updates that returning players should be aware of. First is the recent changes to stats and AA descriptions. If you take a peek at your alternate advancement points, you will notice that some now are very precise in what they will increase and by how much with the next rank of that AA point, which is pretty awesome. No more guessing what impact they'll have. Now you know for sure. With stats, you can hover over them and they will tell you exactly what the stat does. No more endless debates in the EC tunnel or general chat or guild chat debating on whether dex increases your dodge chance or your proc chance or your assassination chance or whatever. It tells you right there. Okay, just read the text. Now, if you've been gone a very long time, you may not even recognize the mod 2 stats that were introduced a while ago. Now, there's a second tab in your inventory. If you click on that, it'll show you a lot of those secondary stats. Now, they've actually reduced those secondary stats in another recent update. There are also classic stats that have been updated, like armor class, for instance, has now been broken up into two values, splitting up into the direct mitigation that you can have, which is how much damage you can absorb, as well as your avoidance stat, which is how much damage you'll outright avoid from such skills as dodge or parry. There's been an advanced loot system added, which is really great once you learn how it works, but there's kind of a learning curve. I'd suggest looking up a video or article specific to it if you can't figure it out when you first use it, because it can be a little confusing and there's no sense in getting frustrated. Just learn about it because it'll actually save you a lot of time in the future. Lastly, you can click on hyperlinked quest chat text to have your character say it without actually having to type it in. Pretty convenient, and it even works on old quests, not just new ones. Now, on to the expansion features. Also, I'm only going to cover the major features and systems and changes to the game, not like the content features and new quests or spells or abilities introduced during each expansion, because we would be here for like days. Alright, that impression didn't work. I'm sorry.
You suck!
Moving on. With the first expansion to the game, Kunark introduced the following features. The new playable race called Ykesha, which was added. Now, I'm just going to have to pause right here. A totally lore accurate fast fact for you. Ykeshas are the coolest race in the game, which is the reason why all the other races hate them. It's okay. You don't have to fact check that. You don't have to type in the comments. That's an accurate fact of lore for Everquest. Just believe me. Epic 1.0 weapon quests were also added during this expansion's run. These weapons may still benefit you today with their clicky effects, but you should look them up individually for your class and make that determination. but be warned because these have massive time sinks to obtain them. During Velious, the second expansion, they added a ton of iconic content, but no notable features that were added during this expansion. Sorry. The third expansion, Luclin, or Luclin, however you want to pronounce that, the playable race of Vishar, or Vishir, whichever, were added along with the new class Beast Lord, which is a hybrid of a half monk and half shaman. So they're only about as half good as the best class in the game, monk. But Sony gave them a fairly powerful pet to make up for it. The mount system was added, allowing you to potentially get around faster than most classes can on their own. The system also benefits casters, as being on a mount grants the benefits of both standing and sitting. You can cast spells, but also rest with no sit-stand management whatsoever. I also believe there's a slight advantage from knockback effects while you're mounted, but who knows? I mean, somebody knows. I think that's true, but I don't want to put my money on the table and say that's definitely true. It's just like my raid leaders have told me it's true because they're like, everybody needs to be mounted for this event because you're gonna get knocked back. And so I just get on a mount because I don't argue with them. I don't argue. I'm not an arguer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you say jump and I'll say, can I please feign death? A new graphics engine was added with updated models particular to player races, but also elementals and so forth. Now, before you start talking about how ugly the new models are, this is completely optional for which character models you prefer. Simply hit this gear icon while logging into the launcher and go to the appropriate settings and uncheck which Luclin model you wish to not see, if it's really that big a deal to you. The Bazaar system was introduced, which is a system and a zone where you can go and set up your character to sell or buy items using a special bag, or you can buy and sell from other players that have set up their characters. Also, just a note, I'll probably cover it when the expansion comes, but you no longer need to actually be in the bazaar to buy and sell items. That is, if you're not the person that set up the buying and selling. Like, if you're buying from a character or selling to a character, man, that just gets confusing. Anyway, you'll figure it out, but you can do that from anywhere now by typing /bazaar or barter or something, and you can then get the items parceled to you with a 10% markup to the asking price. So there is a little disadvantage to not going to the bazaar, but for little items it doesn't really matter. Now, also the alternate advancement system, also known as AA, was added, in which you can change your experience gain from increasing your character's level to increasing AA points, or to earning AA points, which can be used to increase attributes for your skills, like increasing the damage, the casting speed, etc., or even adding new abilities completely. Now, most expansions from this point forward will expand on this selection of AAs. And then lastly, a travel system was added and placed in the Nexus, which allows travel just to specific zones. With Planes of Power came the Plane of Knowledge, which includes a huge hub and travel system, which I still use today, and the library within the Plane of Knowledge contains almost every legacy spell and tome for all classes in one place up until even the last few expansions. So say you're making an alt or something like that, you don't have to run around everywhere for every single level. They're all just right there. It's pretty convenient. But the old vendors are there too if you want that classic feel. No one's stopping you. This is just convenient for those that want the convenience. Next, Ykesha brought us the Froglocks as a playable race with really cool flipping casting animations. Also added was an armor dye system, which uses vials of prismatic dye to change the color of your armor. The vials are crafted by players and can be found in the bazaar of most servers, I assume. We all received increased bank slots, thanks to Ykesha, as well as a new guild management system. The charm slot for character equipment was added during this expansion, which is a little funky sometimes, but you'll get used to it. You'll get used to always only wanting the one that increases with your class gear. You'll see what I mean when you start playing again. Also, the current map system was added, which you still to this day have to go and download unofficial map packs from people that in the community have made. Thanks for only completing the feature halfway, SOE. Lost Dungeons of Norrath added the augment system, which you can enhance your gear by roughly 5 to 10% depending on how sweet the aug is. This system can seem pretty complex if you're first looking at it. Just be sure to pay attention to the slot type number versus the augment slot type number. And then also when you're trying to remove one, you need to look at that distillery number for what type of distillery you want to buy to remove it. Next, during Gates of Discord, the Berserker class was added, giving players another flavor of melee DPS with giant axes. I mean, their epic was pretty big, just saying. I feel like they may be overcompensating for something. Probably those years of where they lack DPS. PS, at least at this time of recording, Berserkers are super overpowered. I don't care what you say. They do 30% more DPS than the next DPS class. That is too much. Peace out. Sony, go fix your shit. Or Daybreak, go fix your shit. Also added was the tribute system, in which is a buff system where you can consume points you have accumulated in the system. To gain points, you give specially designated NPCs any kind of item that you have in the world, and it'll tell you if it's worth anything or not. Leadership AAs were also added during this expansion, which group leaders could turn on and gain experience towards for group enhancements like more HP or more attack. But now everyone gets the abilities automatically for free once they're in a group, so no worries about grinding that out. With Omens of War, the guild tribute system was added. It's pretty much just the personal tribute system we were talking about from Gates of Discord there earlier, but affects all guild members while active and is controlled by, well, whatever rank your guild has set up that can control it. They also inadvertently will then forget to turn it off and waste all the points. Right, Benamage? Just kidding. Love you. Epic 1.5 and 2.0 weapon quests were added. Like the 1.0 epic weapons, the clicky or effect of these weapons may still be beneficial even today depending on your class. I'd recommend looking them up, make that determination for yourself, as they are a huge time investment. I know particularly berserkers and shamans probably still want to pick those up, maybe also bards, but then there's some other classes that, you know, like meh. Now, my research found that the quote task system, quote unquote, was added during this expansion intended for solo content. However, I believe this is the current system used for most today, both solo and group content. But if it's not, and if it's some weird system that I don't ever use, then I'm not sure what it's referring to. Not confusing at all, was that. Also added was a new title system. Titles can be earned through leveling, gaining specific amounts of AAs, achievements such as defeating the last raid boss of an expansion, and even some can be purchased from the cash shop, like these. A voice, macro, and emote system was added, which can make your character audibly say things through the game for preset phases, and it matches your race. It's actually a pretty cool system, but it's rarely used today by players outside of role-playing. I need to start using those again. With Dragons of Norrath, we received the Guild Hall and Guild Lobby, which incorporate a number of systems, from corpse summoners in the Guild Lobby to teleporters in the Guild Hall. For a price, you can set a teleport pad to, you know, basically a bunch of locations. As time has gone on, every new expansion's main hub or zone has been added to this list where you can teleport to, so it's pretty neat for getting around not only to the current content, but to look around at old content in the past. With Depths of Darkhollow, a big part of the expansion's content was using the Spirit Shroud system that it introduced. It's a system in which you can temporarily lower your level by playing as a creature such as a bear or a fairy, who knows. There's a whole list of them. The expansion also included, for the first time, evolving items, which can be turned on and eat a portion of your XP in order to evolve an item to a more powerful item. In the Prophecy of Ro, a new player trap system was introduced for certain classes. Additionally, a system called Spheres of Influence, which we know today as wards and auras, was introduced, giving benefits while around specific players or objects. They also introduced interactivity to objects like destructible crates and walls. It's rarely used, but in some select instances. Lastly, more bank space was given thanks to this expansion. In the Serpent Spire, the player race of Draken was introduced, and thank God for the rest system, which was added, which greatly speeds up health, mana, and endurance regeneration if you're sitting or mounted and have been out of combat for 30 seconds, or 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, if you've just gone out of combat from a raid fight of some sort. The Consider system was also revamped, you know, that where the different colors of the enemies appear depending on how high or low they are in comparison to you. It was just basically revamped because players were getting so high in level, they actually needed to provide some variance, not just, oh, this is one level above you, but now it's like a variance of like, oh, this is 1 to 3 levels above you, or this is 1 to 5 levels below you, or something. Anyway, it depends on what level you are and the thing is, and it changes as you get higher in level. The general concept still remains the same. Red stuff's going to kick your butt, gray stuff's not going to give you any experience. With TBS came the guild emblem and banner system, which allows guilds to customize an emblem to affix on a banner, which can be used in raid instances to allow guild members to teleport to it from the guild hall. A fellowship system was also added, allowing small groups of players to form a fellowship, and they can share experience offline, although you don't have to, and place campfires to allow other fellowship members to teleport directly to them. A new inventory slot was added called a power source, which acts like a battery and enhances your visual armor, such as the chest, legging, glove, helm, boots, you know, that stuff. It'll eventually deplete, much like a battery, and you'll need to replace it. In SOF, the single largest impact to the game was introduced with heroic stats, which allow for greater enhancement to characters than normal stats, as well as increasing the stat cap of those normal stats. So, for example, strength will increase melee damage directly rather than just increasing your attack rating. But it also increases the maximum amount of strength you can get. So it's kind of like that plain old power AA, but you just can keep getting more and more heroic stats. This also introduced a ton of debate on which heroic stats you should maximize for whatever class you are. So for monks, everybody argues about strength or dex, which one's better to increase your damage. Or for tanks, it's like, oh, well, heroic dex is better. No, heroic agility is better. And an endless debate goes on and on and on and on and on, when at the end of the day, they pretty much parse the same. We're talking negligible differences here. But everyone's still going to argue about which is better in the comments below, so have at it. Seeds of Destruction introduced mercenaries, which act like semi-controllable group members that can take the role of the Holy Trinity with tanks, healers, or DPS. And yes, tanks, healers, and DPS is the Holy Trinity for MMOs. You can look it up online, okay? Google search it. It's a thing. It comes from D&D, you. The mercenaries aren't as great as real players and do not give the experience bonus a normal player would in that group, but they do help in a pinch if you need extra heals or tanking, you know, while you're questing or experiencing. With Underfoot, we received the expansion progression window along with an achievement system, which can award experience or even augs and items based on what achievements you do, and there it's pretty cool, and it's like any other achievement system you've ever seen in your life. The extended target window was added, which automatically updates as you or your group gain aggro, making an amazing tool for pullers and for balance raid events. Underfoot also marked a change in how expansions are purchased by being the first expansion to provide all previous expansions with the purchase of it. From this point forward, buying the newest expansion Everquest will provide you with all of the other expansions at the same price. House of Thule was aptly named when it added player housing, which allows you to purchase a plot of land in a designated area, and then you can design your yard as well as the interior of your house in a very robust but technical placement system. With player housing came the trophy system, which is similar to the tribute system, but gives you passive buffs that are active depending on which trophies you have turned on in your home. You can collect the trophies from raid bosses to rare mobs. Just, you know, look them up, see what you want to get. And lastly, House of Thule gave us all more inventory space. Yay! The Veil of Alaris expansion expanded on the housing system with a new guild hall system that acts like large houses but for guilds to decorate, and they have the same features as the old guild hall system. The hotbar system had a huge revamp, adding more button slots, more bars, and customizable options like the button size, as well as how you arrange the buttons along the bar. And you can directly link an item to the hotbar now instead of like whatever bag slot it was in. You can also use items directly from the bags themselves. It's pretty cool. You don't have to have an open inventory slot just for a click. They can be in a bag now. It's neat. With the launch of VOA, guild ranks became customizable, including how many ranks your guild has, their names, the access levels for different guild systems like inviting, promoting, or the guild bank. Also, the parcel and coin delivery system was added, allowing players to send items to another via mail. So if your buddy is out fighting and he's too busy to come and get that awesome weapon you're loaning to him, well, you can at least just mail it to him and then he can get it whenever he checks the mailbox. This also, as when I mentioned when I'm talking about the bazaar, this is the system that allows the bazaar to just send you items when you purchase them. They'll go to the parcel guy and you have to pick them up. With the launch of Reign of Fear came the Slayer achievement system, adding the Bane Strike ability, which you can use on creature types once you've killed enough of them to learn basically their weakness. Also, an actual aggro meter was added, allowing you wizards to know exactly when you're about to take aggro from your tank. But that's still not going to stop you, is it?
Nope.
Reign of Fear was the first expansion with the collection system, allowing you to collect little shiny orbs from different zones, similar to the system in Everquest 2 if you've played that. That's been around for like years. The expansion also added the offline mode for the bazaar, so now you don't even have to stay logged in to sell or buy your items in the bazaar. You can just log out and turn your computer off instead of leaving it on all night. A design change for non-visible inventory slots also went into effect, providing all races and all classes as the standard for most non-viz items. So that's like your belts, your earrings, your fingers, and so forth, right? So most, if not all items from this point forward, if they're non-visible, will be all. Now, that doesn't mean that some items aren't designed specific for classes, meaning they'll benefit one class more than another class, but anyone can use them. So sometimes it's just minute details, but other times, it's like, why are you wearing that? You shouldn't wear that. It's after Labor Day. You shouldn't wear that. Okay, moving on. With the Call of the Forsaken, you can gain AAs for your mercenary, enhancing their limited power limitedly, but at least they're a little bit better, but still not as good as players, and that's okay. Mercenaries also receive 4 inventory slots for special gear, which this expansion gave and you could equip. Also, the current expansion right now, Empires of Kunark, has new inventory items for mercenaries. Only 2 expansions with that kind of stuff. Heroic Adventures were added, which are intended to be quick, randomized dungeons that reward decent experience to adventurers. And lastly, we saw an increase to the shared bank slots. The Darkened Sea added a mount ring, which stores your mounts, saving you inventory or bank space, and allowing you to pick whichever one you want to ride at whatever given time. In the Broken Mirror, they added the Illusion Keyring, which saves more inventory and bank space. And it kind of doesn't work for all illusions, just some of them. So yeah. And lastly, the current expansion, Empires of Kunark, we received the Familiar Keyring. If the unoriginality of these last 2 expansions is starting to show compared to the older ones, right around when, I don't know, some studio was sold to some company or whatnot, you be very observant. Thanks for watching this video. I hoped it helped you if you're coming back to Everquest or thinking about playing again. These are all the features that were added. It's quite the list, and I think that it has added to the quality of life. It's a lot simpler to do some things. Easy may not even be the right word, but simpler. But it does add more complexity if you're only used to, the really, really standard what it was back in the day. Now there's just a whole lot more stuff you can do. So I hope this helped, alleviates from frustrations, and if you learned anything, let me know in the comments below. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. Nicely, please. I have feelings too, you know. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that garbage if you want to. Love ya. Bye-bye.